In the release of TAW MTF during August 2023, I've included two new features in the indicator. One is to display recent wash line without indicating the lookback period. That means the indicator will show you the recent wash lines. And scan function is to show a bell or notification symbol whenever there is a cross and a close above or below the wash lines. Two wash lines. Let's take a look at this tutorial here. If you choose to display recent wash line as true, then it will only show you the most recent wash lines. It is also controlled by this display mode here, whether you want to choose both wash lines or you want to show only the green or only the magenta wash line. If you choose, let's say, display recent wash line as false, then the default will fall back to what's shown underneath here under the HTF1, HTF2 or HTF3 or 4 or 5. Now this means that the wash line that's being shown would be controlled by your setting here under the various HTF setting. Okay, remember that if you show display recent wash line as true, then it will only show the most recent month, most recent week, most recent day wash lines. Let me just demonstrate that to you. So I have shown in the display recent wash line as true and to show both sets of wash line. So it gave you the month wash, the week wash, as well as the day recent wash. Now the reason for doing so is because of clarity. You don't want to have too many redundant wash lines. These wash lines that are redundant happens in the past and they are not valid anymore. They are not useful right now. So we only choose to display the recent wash lines. In the new MTF, what it will do is that it will detect a crossed and a close whenever price is below 2 wash lines or above 2 wash lines. The reason for this detection is to show strength. For example, when price breaks below just 1 wash line, then it is not as strong as if one bar can close below 2 wash lines. It's the same idea as chopstick. If you break one chopstick, it's easier to break, but if you attempt to break 2 chopsticks, then it's tougher to break. Right, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you the few settings in order to make it simpler for you. I will only switch on the green wash line, which is the fake bullish bar, and then I will also turn on this display zone frame and then display cross bell. So sometimes I do not want to display the zone frame because it can be very complicated if you have all the wash lines being displayed, but let me just show it to you. Right, so once all these are set to true, right, click OK. Then what the indicator will do is to show you that these are the 2 wash lines that it's in concern, right? Because in order for the bell to happen, then price actually had a cross above the higher wash lines, but ultimately still closed below the lower wash line. So this is a cross and a close feature. And it's not only 1 wash line, but it's 2 wash lines here. So MTF will detect any 2 nearer wash lines, whether they are the wash lines from the day or from the month or from the week. So it will do a few combinations as I have listed in the write-up in your reading material. Right, so the idea is that when there is a bell that happens, a red color bell, that it means that this is a stronger bearish signal, because then this becomes a cross and a close below 2 wash lines. However, I want to stress one thing is that when you see a bell, it is not equal to a sell signal or a buy signal. Okay, having the bell only shows you the strength, but it does not equate to a buy or a sell signal. In different time frame, we're going to have different crossed and a close. For example, here, this would look at the same wash line, and it will show whether this particular bar, which is the H4 bar, also crossed and closed below 2 wash lines. For example, it did here, so a day did so, and a H4 also did the same thing, which is a cross and a close below 2 wash lines. And how do you use this for your trigger, which is for your signal? As I mentioned, when you have the bell, it doesn't mean that this is a buy or sell signal, but it does reinforce. For example, here, there was a wash line, so this was the day wash line here, and then there is this bar, which is H4 close, that's below the opening bar low, below the day wash line. So this is essentially a sell trigger under TAW strategy. But at the same time, there is a bell here. Now this means that this trigger not only is below just 1 day wash line, but it's also below a week wash line. So this trigger here is very strong because it's below 2 wash lines. In other words, if you see a trigger and that trigger is accompanied by a bell, then this is a stronger trigger. I'm showing you in this example the use of magenta wash lines. And this is a H4 time frame, and you see a blue color bell here. Like magenta wash line, you will see a blue color bell. In the green wash line, you will see a red color bell. What this bell says that in this H4 bar, there was a cross below one of the lower wash lines, and then ultimately there is a close above the higher wash lines. Okay, so what is measuring here is that it's measuring into the month and the day wash line. So it's a combination of month and day wash line here. Now, if you switch on the zone, then the zone will be drawing in various wash lines that is constant, because MTF is always looking for potential cross and close. What I'm trying to illustrate in this example is that when you take that same set of wash lines and then switch that into a day time frame, so this is a day time frame, there is no bell, because the bell only happened when there was H4 closed above the wash lines, but it doesn't have a close in the day time frame. That means the day time frame didn't close above that. So what you have to assume here is that you have to assume that after all this, the day, it is still below the wash line, the magenta wash lines. There's no bullish signal here. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's very important to take note that whenever you see a bell, price is near to zones of wash lines. That means it's only 1 but 2 wash lines minimum. And you should be paying attention to the price behavior here, but it does not equate to a buy or sell signal. Then how to use it in a contrarian way. When you see this bell in a H4, it means that there was a bullish H4 bar that tried to close above 2 magenta wash lines. However, eventually that wasn't successful in the day time frame, as you can see here. It means that essentially price is still being resisted. That also means that if you do see another continuation of price action to go down, that is when the price action is in the reverse direction of this blue color bell, because this blue color bell says that there was an attempt to be bullish. But if you don't see that bullishness carry through, and in fact that price later on subsequently dropped, then this would be a continuation of a sell signal. Let me give you another example to explain the use of the bell. For example, in here, this bell here points to a bullish cross and a close. There was indeed a close that's above the magenta region, and if price doesn't reverse back down, this means that this bullishness is going to be genuine, it's going to be true. Now, however, take a look at this place here. So there was a attempt to cross and close, and then another attempt here to cross and close, but ultimately price actually closed below the low of this 2 bar. Now this means that the attempt was not successful. That means there was an attempt, right, but finally it eventually closed below the so-called magenta levels. Then this is a continuation of price being bearish. Then we should be looking out for more sell trades here. Now the other example here, so there was a close above the magenta line, and eventually price never failed, then will close below the magenta zone, and it continued to move up, then we should be continuing to look for a bullish trade. Now, in other words, the use of the bell means that you can use it as a contrarian, for example, to point to you whether there is a cross and a close above the magenta or below the green line. But in other words, right, if it doesn't continue, then you can use the contrarian way, which is the reverse way of trading it. There are rare occasions where 2 bells happen at 1 bar here, for example, in this case here. Now, what this means is that price is near to a critical level. That means that it is below the green zones and above the magenta zones, and there's a lot of confusions at this moment. We are probably going to wait for price to break out. That means for price to break above conclusively the green zones, or price to break below conclusively the magenta zone, right, for you to take actions.